and welcome to another episode of The Focal Thought. And my guest today is Suzie Senk. How are you, Suzie?
I'm great. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for coming on the show. Now, Suzie, you're an international health educator, a holistic wellness practitioner, sleep specialist, speaker, author, and mother, and you offer integrative solutions to modern-day sleep challenges. And you began your life-affirming wellness consulting practice about 20 years ago, specifying, working with herbalism, nutrition, whole body health. You've gotten into yoga, meditation, energetic Chinese medicine, sleep, fitness, sound, and light. And you offer personalized, developmentally appropriate, gentle sleep solutions for families and young children. And you're always on the go, being interviewed with topics related to sleep and health. And you've got some programs out there on sleep and wellness, Sleep Your Pain Away, the Sleep Detective, Green Your Sleep, and the Sleep Accelerator program. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be speaking with you today about my favorite topic.
Sleep. I mean, it should be everyone's topic, right? I mean, it's an important thing.
For sure.
I wanted to ask you, a long time ago, I read a book called Sleep Thieves, and it went through, the different sort of aspects of sleep in terms of dreaming. Are you getting enough sleep and medication, daylight savings time. And then I read another book called The 7 Pillars of Health by Don Colbert, and he lists about, 7 different things people should do to take care of their health. And number 2 was sleep and rest. And we've heard this before, but sleep is something that's very, very important to humans in terms of physiology, in terms of brain development and functioning, cognition. And, we've heard the stories of people pulling all-nighters. It sounds very glamorous. And, going and acing that exam or, getting to that deadline and that project. And we've heard of people who are sleeping very minimal also, maybe as low as 4 hours a night. But really, people should be getting a healthy amount of sleep, right? So first off, I wanted to ask you, why is sleep so important for us?
I am so happy to answer that question. And I have to ask this because I definitely disagree with that author. What was the number one thing? I know I've seen that book before, but I haven't read it. What was number 1 on that list?
For the 7 pillars?
Yes.
So the 7 pillars were water, sleep and rest, living food, exercise, detoxification, supplements, and coping with stress.
Okay, so he put water before sleep.
Again, I don't think it was hierarchical.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but yeah.
Got it. I see. Okay, because sleep is the foundation. It is the most fundamental thing. If you are not sleeping, definitely if you're not drinking water, you will die as well. But you cannot do, the body can't do its repair work if you're not sleeping. And so in order for every single part of the body to work properly, there is no known biological function that scientists have found that is not impacted for good or bad by sleep or a lack thereof it. So that kind of answers your question too. Why is sleep so important? It's fundamental and crucial to the growth and development and maintenance and repair of every single aspect of the body.
Yes. And what would you recommend as a healthy amount of sleep? Would that differ from person to person, or should it be the same, or should it, depend on the circadian environment or maybe the geographical environment? Or
there's definitely an impact on people who live at the polar extremes. However, there's a misnomer you hear of various celebrities talking about only needing 4 hours of sleep or doing micro sleeping where they're taking, small amounts of sleep throughout the day in a variety of doses. And the scientific data shows that the likelihood of that actually being enough sleep for any specific person is like 0.0001% of the population. And those people who need less than approximately 8 hours of sleep. And I'll explain to you why it's approximately 8 hours in just a second. But the people who are that way are due to a genetic anomaly. And it's very, very uncommon for people to have that. So for the very vast majority of all of us, we need approximately 8 hours of sleep per night in order to function optimally. And the reason why I say approximately 8 hours of sleep is because everybody's body is slightly different in the sense that we all go through a similar structure of sleep, unless there's a problem, unless there's a sleep disorder. But the actual amount of time of each sleep cycle might vary from person to person. So the average is around 90 minutes, but for some people it might be 85. For some people it might be closer to 100 minutes per sleep cycle. So that's why the 8 hours is an approximation.
Okay, so you're doing these 90-minute cycles, and this, I believe, is REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement, and then non-REM sleep, right? It's sort of alternating between the two.
Right. So you got the parts right, but backwards. So first we cycle through various stages of non-REM sleep. And then at the end of the stage, we go into REM sleep, which is also known as rapid eye movement sleep. So first we start in what they call N1. And N1 is light sleep, where you might not even be aware that you are actually asleep. And that's when the body can kind of jerk. And then you go into N2 sleep, where you start to have deeper breathing and your heart rate slows a little bit. And they have these things that happen to the brain called sleep spindles, where the brain will do these cyclical brainwave patterns. And then you get into N3, which is the deepest sleep. And in that stage, your body is really, really super relaxed. You stop having any eye movement. You can actually have some dreams in that stage, but it's more common and to have them during REM sleep. And then you cycle back up into N2, and then you go into REM sleep, which is the rapid eye movement sleep, which is where you do your dreaming. And then you go back up into N2 for a little bit, and then you repeat that cycle over and over again, 4 to 5 times per night.
Got it. Okay, so it's not that sleep, I used to think sleep was just one big version of maybe REM sleep, right? You should be dreaming all the time, but no, it is broken up into these little cycles, right?
Yes, and earlier in the night, we have more deep sleep, deep non-REM sleep. And then as the night progresses, we have more REM sleep. So the last cycle of sleep that we have right before we wake up in the morning is mostly REM, or more REM than the other cycles earlier in the night. And in each of those specific stages of sleep, the body is doing different things for the repair and for memory consolidation and for emotional processing and for learning. So each of them are really important. And I like to tell people this because so many people cut off their last cycle of sleep, and they cut off that REM cycle at the end of the night. And when they do that, they're actually cutting off very, very important parts of what the body needs in order to do emotional memory processing and consolidation.
Oh, wow. So people really should be not only getting, 8 hours, but they should be getting good amounts of all these different stages during their 8 hours of sleep.
Right. It's not just quantity, but it's also quality. And so someone can be getting a quote unquote full night's sleep, but due to various lifestyle factors or various physiological things that are going on in their body, they might not be getting really good quality sleep. And then that can also affect their body's ability to take care of itself.
Wow. So then do you think, with the work that you've done, people should be sleeping at the same time every night, depending where they're located? So it should be circadian?
I didn't really understand the last part of your question, what you meant by it should be circadian. And to answer the first part of your question, yes, definitely. The body, I think what you were trying to say is that the body has a circadian rhythm, and
Yes.
that circadian rhythm tells it's a regular body rhythm throughout the 24-hour period. It's like an internal biological clock, and it regulates lots of different things, including when we fall asleep, when we're supposed to be asleep, when we're resting, when we're digesting, and when we are supposed to be awake. And so if a person is moving their sleep time all over the place, so for example, this happens a lot with teenagers, where during the week they have to get up really, really early for school, but they it's actually one of the things that I'm most passionate about, because teenagers have a biological imperative to stay up later than younger children and adults. I have a theory about it, that it's actually a evolutionary imperative that was created because that was the age that that the tribe would need to be protected, and it was that age children that would stay up to protect the tribe. I have no idea if that's true. It's just my theory, but it makes sense. So asking a teenager to wake up at 6 or 7 in the morning to go to school is like asking an adult to wake up at 2 a.m. Not very healthy, not very functional. But then, because teenagers aren't getting enough sleep during school days, they get to stay up later on the weekends because their parents let them, and then they sleep all day until noon or 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the weekends to catch up on their sleep. But it creates kind of this chicken and egg cycle where they're really not getting quality sleep because their body is confused.
Wow. So just 2 days on the weekend will throw them off cycle.
Definitely, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No, and you are right. I did mean, with circadian in terms of syncing it to the internal clock, because I have heard, I think melatonin starts at about 11 p.m. or traditionally should. And then with the Hindu religions, it's not related to circadian as much, but they like to wake up between, I believe it's, 4 to 6 a.m., somewhere around there. That's sort of like the magical time to wake up and to meditate and to be in tune with, the cosmos and things like that. So, but then it also depends where you are, even with sort of the circadian effect, because if you're in a place where there's, sunlight, 12 to 18 hours of the day, that's going to throw your sleep cycle off, right?
Absolutely. Yes. And ideally, the way that we evolved for a very, very long time is that we have something in the back of our eye called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and it cues our brain when we should be awake and when we should be asleep. And it's triggered by light frequencies that hit it. So we evolved without electricity, without electric light bulbs. We evolved with just the sun, maybe a campfire, and the light of the moon and the stars. And so that's what we are used to. And if you think about human history in terms of evolution, it's only been in the last very, very, like the tiniest percentage of time that we have had artificial light. And this has wreaked havoc on our body's ability to know when to sleep and when to wake up. So ideally, optimally, wherever you are in the world, you're in harmony with the rhythms of light and dark, and you are also mindful and aware of the light diet or light exposure that you have from artificial light, and you minimize that as much as possible. And you get lots and lots of natural sunlight during the day. And then when the sun goes down, you have only amber or red colored lights, because there's specific frequencies of light within the light spectrum that are most disruptive to the production of melatonin and the circadian rhythm. And so if you are in harmony with the sun rising and the sun setting, then naturally you will want to fall asleep when the sun goes, actually it's not even completely just when the sun goes down, but it's actually when the earth cools. So there's two primary biological factors that affect our body's cues regarding sleep, and one is light and one is temperature. And temperature is just as important, if not even more important than light. So we actually naturally get sleepy, not just when the sun goes down, but when the sun goes down and then the earth starts to cool. That is a cue to our body, okay, now it's time to wind down and go to bed. So if you were to go camping without any artificial light, your body would naturally start to sync to that rhythm. And you would, even if you were a night owl, you would find yourself wanting to go to bed earlier and then wanting to wake up. So the yogic philosophy regarding the magic time being from 4 to 6 a.m., that's not just like a philosophical idea. That's actually because those people were in tune with the rhythms of nature, and naturally they were going to bed around 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night. And because they were already going to bed that early, their bodies wanted to wake up at that time of day. It wasn't something that they had to force.
And that's the best way, is just to wake up naturally and not be forced by an alarm clock, and also to wake up feeling refreshed and not feel tired, right?
Oh yeah. If you're waking up and you feel tired when you wake up, you're not sleeping properly. That's like the most fundamental way you can know whether you're sleeping well or not. If you wake up and you have sustained energy throughout the day without needing to eat chocolate or drink caffeine, you're good to go. If you wake up in the morning and you feel exhausted, if you sleep through your alarm clock and keep hitting snooze, if you have to drink coffee in the morning to get your brain moving or to, make it through the day, if you have a really, really significant afternoon energy crash where you just feel like you hit a wall, all of those things, if you're hyper in the evening or you're anxious, all of these things are cues that you are not sleeping well and that you need some support with your sleep.
Yes, no, for sure. And well, you mentioned the afternoon energy crash. What are your thoughts on, the infamous siesta? They do say that in some cases it does help longevity by having an afternoon nap. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm so glad you asked this, because as I was saying it, I wanted to mention this. So related to our circadian rhythm, we have a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol is the hormone that is supposed to wake us up in the morning. It's also the hormone that kicks in if we are in danger. But it has a natural cycle, and it's supposed to be highest in the morning, right when we wake up, to help us get out of bed and start our day. And then it slowly tapers off, and there's a natural dip that happens in the mid-afternoon that is in alignment with siesta time in traditional cultures, because they knew that there was this natural energy dip. And then it goes up a little bit in the evening, and then it's supposed to be tapering down and be the lowest in the middle of the night while we're sleeping. For a lot of people with sleep challenges, their cortisol rhythms are really askew, and so they don't have that natural pattern, and they need support in various ways, de-stressing, taking herbal supplements, various things to get their cortisol back in rhythm. And one of those things that can be helpful is honoring that mid-afternoon dip, because it is biological. It happens to everyone. If it's something where you're like, I just feel like I'd like to rest after my lunch, that's fine. If you're like, oh my God, I'm narcoleptic, I cannot continue, my brain is fried, that's a different story. And regarding naps, sometimes for some people, they're wonderful and rejuvenative. Sometimes for some people, they don't support them and they make them feel worse and more sleepy. What I would say is that if you, I don't usually, I have so much energy that I don't even really feel like I need to take that pause anymore in my life, because I feel so great. However, there was a time in my life where I really, really needed to. And so even if I didn't nap, I would, put my legs up against a wall and just shut my eyes for 10 minutes. And that would really, really help me. And I also found that when I do that, one of the wonderful things that happens when we sleep, and definitely during nap time, is that we have in our brains kind of like a defragging process. So even if it's kind of like meditation, if you just sit quietly and meditate and stop doing for long enough, what you'll notice is that initially your thoughts will be all over the place, and you'll be thinking of things and processing things. But the more that you allow yourself to be still, the more the mind will settle down. And whether you just take a pause in the middle of the day or you actually do nap, it allows your brain to kind of empty its buffer and decompartmentalize and process the first part of the day, so that you're fresh and bright and ready to go in the afternoon.
Got it. So it's like a mini reset for the brain halfway through the day.
That's right.
Got it. Okay. Do you associate sleep as a state of altered consciousness?
That's a very interesting question. Can you tell me more of what you mean by the question?
So, I mean, if we say that the waking state is a form of consciousness, and some cultures have identified up to, I think, 25 different states of consciousness. I haven't got that deep into it, but if we say you're conscious, and then you're unconscious, and then the third state might be the sleeping state of some parts being conscious, because there are some sort of systems that are active, but then you are unconscious to some extent, right? And then you're sort of in the dream state as well. So then some might say that is technically another altered state of consciousness from our regular state of consciousness.
Yeah. I don't see it in this compartmentalized way. I kind of see it all as a spectrum of consciousness. And what I can say is that I I had an old friend who would call dreaming mental Cuisinart. And I love that term, because dreams are so seemingly random and bizarre at times. And also what I would say is that dreaming can be very, very different for different people. There's lucid dreaming, and there's all sorts of different aspects that happen in dreaming. What I do know for sure is that, without a doubt, what happens in dreaming is that we process our experiences and the emotional charge that we have during the day. And it's extremely important for that reason. People who have PTSD actually aren't able to get into the stages of sleep that allow them to do that emotional processing. And so that's why they can have these scary, repetitive dreams. And that's why they have PTSD. So I think that you can be in an altered state of consciousness and be wide awake. And I think that you can be cognizant and aware of what you're doing in your sleep.
Yes, no, definitely. And I like that you said that, we express, our emotional charge in the form of dreams, because I've definitely had that, when I've had experiences during the day that have troubled me, maybe with work or, with relationships, things like that. It comes out, it manifests in the dream. And, there are different reasons for dreaming also. I've also had some experiences that are maybe, somewhat psychic. I've had a dream about someone, and the next day that person sort of popped up in a conversation, or, in an interaction, and it was related to the dream somehow, some sort of mild prophecy. So no, there are different reasons for dreaming for sure. And
yeah, and there are some people who have the ability to, you like with lucid dreaming, use the dream state to access different parts of consciousness and awareness. So I feel like there's a whole lot that mystics have understood and know about the body and about the world and about life that science is still trying to understand and explain.
wow, well, that's interesting. I have to check out some lucid dreaming subjects, and I might want to tread carefully, because if we're having these great experiences during sleep state, I might want to sleep more than live more. So waking. Does it worry you with the impact of technology on sleep? Like you were mentioning before, we really had natural light from the sun, the moon, and the stars, and with the invention of the light bulb, I mean, it was great of Edison, but there's always a catch-22 with that, with the invention of the TV screen, and then with the the phones that we have. And I really don't think people are as aware of how much time they're voluntarily spending on their phones. And, especially, it used to be that you'd watch TV while going to bed, but now you've got this phone right up in front of you. And on social media sites, you've got, a never ending streams of, material that you can just scroll through. And, you can see that people are extending their sleep into the later hours of the night. Does it worry you at all where we're heading with technology, with screens and light affecting our sleep that way, or not at all?
Worry is an interesting thing. Am I wary? I think wary might be a better word than worry, because I'm wary of it in terms of, I feel like in general, we are in a great social experiment right now with all of technology, and where we're headed is a big question mark. And I think that we forget that we're animals, we are biological animals. And yes, we have, maybe different capacities than a worm, but we're still part of the earth. And to forget that, or to deny that, or to get sidetracked by technology from that, I think is to our detriment. My hope is that as technology advances, there's a way for us to create more understanding and more knowledge, and have more harmony with and balance with it all. But there's a term called koyaanisqatsi. I think it's Japanese. I'm not really sure. There was a movie created with that name, but it means life out of balance. So it's not Japanese. It's I can't remember, but it's not Japanese. It's something else. Anyways, it means life out of balance. And I feel like as a society, the people living in developed nations are living that way, myself included. And it's a juggling act to find how to walk in a way that is honoring of the self, and honoring of the earth, and honoring of all the people who, and animals and plants that we share this life with.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that. And you're very right, because anytime you have something like balance, anytime balance is concerned, discipline is involved, and you need that discipline to keep the balance in check. So you've got your maybe 8 hours of work, 8 hours of extra time, curricular time, family time, playtime, but then your 8 hours of sleep, because it's very easy to push that bar into the night. I'm just going to extra 20 minutes, an extra hour. Before you know it, it's 1 or 2 in the morning, and you've got to wake up at 6 or 7, and it's very easy to get sidetracked that way.
Guilty.
Yeah, no, we're all human. Um, I wanted to ask you just finally, if there's just maybe a few tips you could recommend before going to sleep and also doing the first thing you wake up from sleep.
Yes. So this is an important concept to understand. Most people think that sleep is just what happens when our head hits the pillow and when we're in bed. But sleep is really impacted by every single thing that we do throughout the entire day. So in order to affect sleep positively, we really have to look at all the things that we're doing throughout the day from the moment that we wake up until, what's happening while we're sleeping. So in order to sleep well, one of the most basic things to check out is what's going on with your sleep hygiene. And sleep hygiene is basically just a fancy term to describe the actions that you take, that you have control of, that you do that prepare you for sleep. And I could go over them, but you can also just Google sleep hygiene and you will find a gazillion articles on sleep hygiene. And it's basically, controlling your light diet, not having caffeine too late in the day, not having stressful activities in the evening, not exercising too late in the day, making sure that you don't have sugar right before bed, making sure that you eat balanced meals throughout the day, making sure that you're getting enough natural sunlight during the day, getting enough exercise, lots and lots of different things that impact sleep. And then, like I said before, making sure that, blue light exposure, obviously, not having mental stimulation in any form. It could even be a book. If you're a person that is like super excited about the book that you're reading, that could prevent you from being able to sleep well at night. So you really have to know yourself and know what, have like a personal inquiry into what relaxes you and what lights you up. And then when you're sleeping, obviously you need a comfortable bed. Non-toxic bedding is really important because we have a lot of unnatural chemicals that can also disrupt our endocrine system, and that can impact our sleep. You want to make sure that you sleep in a very cool environment and colder than you would actually think. So between like 58 and 62, 64 degrees is best for most people. Making sure that you don't have noise interruptions. And then when you wake up in the morning, you'll love this actually. So I have a teacher in India, and he told me that the very best thing that you can do when you wake up in the morning is actually rub your hands together vigorously 3 times in a row. After you rub your hands, you cup them over your eyes, and then you roll onto your right side, and then you wake up after that. Like you get out of bed after that. I think it's really, really important to start the day with at least 1 full glass of water before any caffeine or any other drinks. I actually start my day every single day with a glass of hot water with natural sea salt and half of a lemon. And that's really great as well because most people are really mineral deficient, which can also affect sleep. And then getting out and getting natural sunlight, even if you're living up in an apartment, being able to open up the curtains and getting natural sun exposure is really important.
And that doesn't matter if it's summer or winter in terms of getting out and getting the natural sunlight?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's important. Yeah.
I mean, definitely not. So vitamin D deficiency is very strongly linked to sleep, and most people are also vitamin D deficient because if you think about it, ages ago, most of our ancestors lived in some sort of hut. They would wake up in the morning when the sun came up. They would go outside. They would be out in the field or, hunting or working outside all day long. And then when the sun would set, they would come inside and go to sleep. So they would be getting enough vitamin D absorption through the sunlight in their skin. But now most of us work indoors and we're not getting nearly enough natural sun exposure in order to have the optimize vitamin D in order to have our bodies function properly and to get into the deep stages of sleep that we need to.
Got it.
And so to answer your question, in the winter, most people's vitamin D drops down even more because they do spend more time indoors. And so it's even more important to either supplement with vitamin D or make sure that you're getting outdoors and getting sun on a daily basis.
No, that's a good point. Thank you for mentioning that. No, that's awesome, man. Really thanks again for coming on the episode and, sharing your thoughts with the work that you've done. Because once again, I feel that, we spend most of our waking day planning things, setting our vision, our goals for our waking state, but not really thinking too much about our sleeping state, nor protecting our sleeping state. And if you don't do that, you won't be able to have as enriching experience in your waking state. So thank you for outlining that. And if people want to get a hold of you, they can check out your website if they want to see your work or anything.
Yeah. You can find me at SuzieSenk.com. It's SuzieSenk.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, so you can look for me by my name and find me there too.
Okay, that's amazing. Thanks so much, Suzie, and I'll put those in the show notes as well.
Yay, thank you so much for having me. This has been so fun. You can tell I could talk forever about it.
No, we can go on multiple categories. So thanks for summarizing that. And yeah, once again, thanks for coming on the episode, and I wish you well.